Hello gamers, welcome back, or in case you are new here, I'm NKZL. In this video I want to talk about cheating in gaming and the impact it has and it will continue to have on the gaming industry. Of course, not all the gaming industry will be affected. While even single-player games have people cheating, it does not have a direct impact on other players of the game. Of course, outside of some cheating in a speedrun or something like that. But realistically, that is too niche of a market to matter. I try to be a positive person and look on the bright side of things, so while cheating is definitely bad and it is very disappointing that this is happening in gaming, maybe it will have a positive impact on the whole gaming industry. More about this towards the end of the video. I personally play almost exclusively multiplayer games with a focus on live service games. Right now, gamers seem to be split almost equally between multiplayer games and single-player games. The vast majority of older gamers prefer single-player games, while the younger generation, gamers under the age of 45 and younger, vastly prefer online games. And these percentages will continue to shift towards multiplayer games. It's normal. For the younger generation, gaming is not just entertainment, it's also a social element. Of course, these statistics are only based on what people prefer to play, because if we look at the top most played games, they are overwhelmingly multiplayer. In the current top 10 on Steam, for example, there are 9 multiplayer games. Not even one single-player game, and in the top 10 of all times, only Black Myth Wukong is entirely single-player. Of course, games like Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3 can be considered single-player, but both of these games have multiplayer features. While this is great for someone like me that loves these kind of games, as it means the industry will continue to focus on providing the kind of games I enjoy, sadly it also means that if a problem affects the vast majority of multiplayer games, it will have an effect on the vast majority of gamers. But regardless of where you stand on this issue, it is something that affects gaming. And sadly, more and more people that have vast audiences end up being caught cheating themselves. The latest example that probably a lot of you have heard of is Elon Musk that got accused of cheating in Path of Exiles 2, and he ended up admitting to it and even admitted that he did the same in Diablo 4. But I'm not piling on Elon, and this video is not about him, so regardless if you like him, or you dislike him, or you dislike what he did, don't focus on that. The reasons I'm bringing this up is because he said two things that are relevant to our topic, and I will be paraphrasing here. He says there is nothing to apologize for, and that cheating is the only way to compete with other top players as everyone else does it. What he did is against the terms of service of Path of Exiles 2 and Diablo, but maybe he obtained permission to do this from the developers. However, objectively speaking, it is still a form of cheating even if he did. And of course, he is the richest man on the planet, so let's face it, even if he did not obtain permission from the developers, they are not going to do anything about it. The moral choice would be to ban him, but it would be extremely stupid of them, for obvious reasons. It is the way our world works, even in games. A lot of people, online especially, see games as a separate entity from reality, and they simply are not. They exist within the framework of our reality, so the so-called real world will undoubtedly have an effect on games. Then the second statement, and this is the more important part, his claim that this is the only way to compete with other top players, and as much as me or anyone else would hate to admit it, it is true. This is the situation we are facing in gaming. It's kinda routine for top players to get exposed for cheating. Some even get exposed for doing it in live tournaments, so who knows how many did it without getting caught. What kind of message does this send to everyone else? Every time one of these public figures does something like this and there are no real repercussions, it's like telling everyone that it's alright to cheat. After the Elon fiasco, there are plenty of people that shamelessly started admitting to real money trading in Path of Exiles. As they have been shown by Elon, there are no repercussions for these actions. The reason why they pretend not to be cheaters was simply because of the potential to get punished for it. But since there is no punishment, they have no real reason to keep the pretense up. I see a lot of people saying, well, what's wrong with cheating? It's just games, right? So what's the big deal? Well, gaming is a growing industry. It's the entertainment choice of billions of people worldwide. And this number is only going to grow with the passing of time. It will probably reach close to 90% in a few decades. So I can confidently say that cheating affects and will affect a substantial part of the population. The implications are far-reaching and many. First of all, cheating devalues the vast majority of competitive elements and the vast majority of accomplishments people can obtain in progression-based games. Sure, it's impressive to be successful in real life and as a result be top of the charts in a game, but that's all there is to it. It's not about who is skillful at the game, it's about who has the bigger wallet. Sadly, not everyone that wants to compete in games is financially successful in real life. So this results in people that do not have the money to compete, trying to compete by any means necessary, so exploiting whatever they can, whenever they can. I see this routinely happen. Even in the latest MMO I play, Throne and Liberty, there was a guild exploiting the party invite feature to disrupt their enemies in PvP. It's incredibly pathetic. But this is what people do. Winning becomes the only relevant metric for them, and they would be willing to do anything to achieve that goal, no matter how pathetic it is. Sadly, the result is that whenever anyone that is genuinely good at a game wants to compete, they might end up not even trying, because the overwhelming sentiment is that everyone is cheating. So not only would they have to compete with a lot of cheaters, but if they actually make it to the top, it's unlikely that anyone would believe they did it without some form of cheating. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but as a general rule, cheating destroys the very foundation that competition is based on. The next effect that cheating has is losing money for these companies. In 2020, the estimates were around 29 billion lost in revenue because of cheating. Since then, we had a lockdown with COVID and a booming in the gaming industry, so the numbers are probably in the triple digits by now. As a gamer, you might not care if the company is making money or losing money. It's their problem, not yours. However, gaming is a symbiotic relationship between developers and gamers. It's very stupid when developers forget that this is a symbiotic relationship, as it is for gamers to do so, and there are plenty of bad actors on both sides. But one of these sides holds more power than the other, and that is the developers. Because they are making the game, so they have all the creative power, which directly translates into the game being good or bad. But gamers also have a major power that is the financial one. They can choose to pay or not to pay. However, because gamers are not a unified entity and everyone has their own preferences, this power cannot be always used effectively to determine developers to make a higher quality product. Of course, when the product is absolutely terrible, like Concord for example, gamers will overwhelmingly reject it. This should send a clear message and hopefully will result in better games. This cannot be always the case. We can talk about this financial dynamic and its implications for hours, but this is not what the video is about, so let's get back to our topic. Cheating affects gamers by devaluing competition and developers by taking money away from them. Game development is a business, so this will determine developers to come up with solutions. The solution that these companies come up with vary. However, as an example, there is no multiplayer progression-based game that is not pay to win, and there will never be. Because even if a company is not directly offering pay to win avenues, they will be available from real money traders, and there is very little developers can do about it. If a developer says that their progression online game will not have pay to win, they are simply lying, and they know it. Even almost dead games like Mortal Online 2 that have a very niche audience have a very active real money trading scene. This game is basically dead, having around 700 to 800 top concurrent players, and there are over 3,500 completed orders in the last year alone on one of the multiple real money trading websites. So you can imagine how bad the situation is for a game that has a good player base. So, to sum this point up, if the developers of an online progression game have any semblance of intelligence, they will offer pay-to-win avenues in their games. At least this way, they will generate some revenue, and at the very least, some of the profits from there can be used by good actors in the industry to improve the game. The truth is, especially for live service games, that if a game is making a lot of money, the profit-driven developers will try to milk it for as long as possible. If they are competent, it will also usually mean they have to improve the game. So far we talked about how this cheating devalues competition and how this has an effect on progression-based games that will have various pay-to-win avenues, either directly from the developers or through various third-party means. This can be seen as a negative for gamers and the gaming industry, but I would like to look at things from an entirely different perspective, and I know this will be a controversial opinion, but hear me out. Games exist and are supposed to be played for entertainment, not for some grandiose achievement. They are meant to be fun, and while competition can be fun if everyone has a high moral character and there is a high degree of sportsmanship, sadly, because us as humans are selfish by nature, that ends up not being the case. Winning becomes way more important than having fun. The fact that competition is devaluing in gaming gives room for other factors to take priority, both for players and developers. Enjoyment is becoming and will continue to be more important. And I would like to believe that this will result in us having more and more games that focus on the experience rather than the competitive aspect. And honestly, to me it feels like that is exactly where we are heading. More and more quality games are being produced, and the focus is on the game being fun and entertaining rather than being competitive. Of course, there will also be competitive games, especially in the shooter space, because with the advancement of AI technology, it becomes easier and easier to detect those that cheat in these kind of games. Marvel Rivals being a good example. It is not devoid of cheaters or anything like that, but is doing considerably better than other shooters. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that cheating doesn't directly affect single-player games, but maybe because of the effect it has on the multiplayer games, it will end up raising the bar for the whole industry. If the developers have to create more enjoyable games, with better stories, better gameplay, better graphics, and so on, this will inevitably translate to single-player games as well. Anyway, in conclusion, I think it is pretty sad to see competition being devalued in progression-based games. However, I believe that this is part of the growing pains that the gaming industry is going through, and it will result in a positive outcome for us as gamers. We just have to focus on the enjoyment aspect of any game we play. In my eyes, the best achievement you can have in a game is having fun. That should end up being the most important metric for the quality of a game. While cheating and cheaters are pathetic, and they affect gaming industry in negative ways, I think as a result of their actions, we will end up seeing a positive impact on the whole gaming industry and will result in better games for us overall, regardless of what kind of games we enjoy. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment and all that, or don't. See you in the next one, gamers.